Après 4 ans et demi de règne, les masques de ce gouvernement sont finalement tombés. Et nous pouvons désormais constater l'état désastreux de notre économie. Avec une croissance balisant les 3,8% pendant ces 5 dernières années, une balance commerciale de 129 milliards, 17 milliards de plus que l'année dernière, Madame la Présidente. La dette publique avoisinant les 323 milliards, et avec les secteurs traditionnels qui sont en difficulté, tels que le textile, le sucre et aussi le tourisme, c'est la catastrophe assurée, Madame la Présidente. Madam the Speaker, clearly the measures that have been announced by the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance in the budget did not meet the expectations of the people. The Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance has completely missed the target. Responsible people, responsible citizens of this country, those who have at heart the future of this country, those who are concerned about the economic situation of this country, those who are concerned about the youth, those who think for the good of this country, they were disappointed and they were deceived. And what did we hear? These persons, those responsible citizens who were so anxious to hear the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, to come up with macroeconomic measures to address the problem of debt, to address the problem of trade deficit, to address the problem of GDP growth. Those who were expecting the Honourable Minister of Finance to come with measures, long-term measures, not one-off solutions, long-term measures, to address the problem that the textile industry is facing, that the sugar sector is facing, that the tourism sector is facing, they were favoured with what? Baisse ou removal of VAT on toute moyen, sagou, aplomb, vermicelle. This is what they were favoured with. Even those few budgetary measures, I will call them sweeteners. Sweeteners, Madam the Speaker. Like the reduction in the price of mogas, diesel, cooking gas, 500 rupees increase in old age pension, the meager 30 rupees for the fishermen. Even those sweeteners have not sufficed to put the population to sleep. The vicious plan, this vicious plan of conning the people with a few sweeteners, Madam the Speaker, unfortunately for the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Prime Minister, does not work anymore. These were in the old days. The people nowadays are more enlightened. They are clever. This government, Madam the Speaker, will be judged not on those few sweeteners. They will be judged on their realizations. They will be judged on their unfulfilled promises. And certainly, Madam the Speaker, they will be judged on the numerous scandals that have shaken this government for 5 years. The time has come, Madam the Speaker, the time has come for the population to ask questions. Questions about the unfulfilled promises. What happened, Madam the Speaker, to the promised second economic miracle? What happened to the 5.7% growth promised in their first budget, a new era? What happened to the 13 mega projects of smart cities and technopoles? The 100,000 jobs, 15,000 emplois par année promised in the Economic Vision 2030. Their policy on turning they were blaming the Labour Party for apparently turning the nation into a nation Zugadea. What happened to their policy on nation Zugadea, turning the population from a nation Zugadea to a nation d'entrepreneur? What happened? We know how many betting licenses have been given and in what circumstances, Madam the Speaker. The Marshall Plan against poverty, the 10,000 social housing promise, I will come to that later. Import substituting industries to cater for our balance deficit. On Tuesday, I have put a question to the minister responsible for trade, and he's talking about food. What was that? Sheltered farming. Sheltered farming to remedy the situation, the dire situation that we are facing with the trade deficit. What happened to the SME industrial parks at Plaine-Magnan and Villemin, agribusiness park, onshore oil refinery at Albion, gold refinery, production of bicycles and motorcycles, pharmaceutical village at Rosebel, 3D printing Rivière du Rempart and Rosebel, the Mindex at Rosebel, Africa, Mauritius, Singapore, Asia Air Corridor, a flop. A flop. The list is very long, Madam the Speaker. I better keep some for the campaign. If you go through the last 4 budgets, you will realize how many of those promises have remained unfulfilled. And there are obvious reasons why these promises have not been fulfilled. Obvious reasons. Premièrement, Madame la Présidente, l'instabilité dans le gouvernement pendant ces 5 dernières années. L'instabilité. Never before in the political life of this country have we seen so much instability in a ruling government. There has been a stripping of the government since 2014, stripping. People today no longer recognize the government that they elected in 2014. Not less than, let me count properly, attention qui m'ont fait rire là, 15 MPs. 15 MPs have left government. 1/3 of those who were elected in 2014 have left government. We have had 2 prime ministers, 2 presidents of the Republic, 1 acting president, 3 ministers of finance. 5 ministers have resigned pour des raisons scandaleuses. Honorable Sudan, Honorable Dayal, Honorable Lashmina Raidu, Honorable Badin, Honorable Jadou John Bakas, Honorable Yerigadu. And you expect this government to deliver with so much instability? Secondly, scandals. Scandal has been the motto, the mantra of this government. Lalangate, Karogangate, Balcouler, Euroloan, Yerigadu Gate, findings of the Commissioner of Inquiry on Drugs. The Commissioner of Police signing, the Commissioner of Police holding a constitutional post, signing the passport of a drug trafficker, and that person, the Commissioner of Police, still in post today. Though there have been allegations of traffic d'influence against him at the ICAC, he's still in post. Would you imagine this? Even dans une république bananière, you will not find this. attack on the independence of the DPP with the prosecution commission, attempt to arrest the DPP, let alone independence, attempt to arrest the DPP. A public broadcasting corporation, MBC, which has lost all its credibility. L'affaire Alvaro Sobrino, another scandal. Une panoplie de scandales never seen before. These are the reasons, Madam the Speaker, these are the reasons why this government has not delivered on its promises. They're more concerned about these scandals, instability, firefighting in government.
There's no turntable ladder.
Madam the Speaker, let me expatiate on a few measures that were mentioned in the budget. Premièrement, reduction in the price of mogas, diesel, and cooking gas. Good measure. They want us to clap them for this reduction, for the reduction in those prices. But we have to speak not part of the truth. We have to speak the whole truth. The other day, I heard Honorable Ganga comparing the prices of those commodities, mogas, diesel, and cooking gas, under the Labour regime, with the prices under the current regime. You see, Madam the Speaker, Mauritians are more enlightened nowadays. They are not duped and don't try to fool them. What the minister failed to mention is the evolution of the prices of those commodities on the international market under the Labour regime compared to the prices under this current regime. From 2010 to 2014, under the Labour government, I've done some research. It's very easy for every Mauritian to go on the internet, look at the prices of those commodities on the international market and compare them with the prices today. En 2011, Labour regime, when Labour was in government, the price of 1 barrel of Brent crude oil was $111 per barrel. $111 per barrel. 2012, $111 per barrel again. 2013, $108. And 2014, $98. And when this government came in, they were lucky. Well, to admit, they were lucky. The price of 1 barrel of crude oil went down to $53, $45 in 2016, $54 in 2017, $71 in 2018.
Massive windfall gains.
Massive windfall gains. And if you, so the price has decreased by nearly half. And if you calculate the average, a simple mathematical calculation, if you calculate the average international price on the international market during the Labour government, and now the price has decreased by about 43%. On the international market, the price has decreased by 40%. And locally, Madam the Speaker, the price has decreased at an average of only 9%. 43% compared to 9%, including the 3 rupees. I'm going to repeat it for the people to know. They have been robbing the people, including the 3 rupees that went in the MID corner. Internationally, the price went down by 43% when this government here, they've reduced the price of these commodities by only 9%. This is cheating the people. Well, I will leave it for the population to appreciate, Madam Speaker. Old age pension. I heard some of the ministers, not only the ministers, including the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, saying that they had inherited un lourd bilan de l'ancien régime. You know, Madam Speaker, sometimes exaggerations has a limit. They want to blame the Labour government for their own mismanagement of the economy. This is a shameful attempt to lay the blame at the door of the Labour Party. After 4.5 years that they have been in power, now they are coming and saying that the Labour Party should be blamed for the mismanagement of the economy. They are saying that apparently the Prime Minister went on the national TV telling to the people when they took power in 2015, la caisse de l'État était vide. But let me ask this question, simple question. Si la caisse était vide en 2015, where did they get 4.7 billion of rupees to pay for compensation? Salary compensation. 600 roupies across the board. 4, ça a coûté à l'État 4,7 milliards de roupies. In January 2015, yes, where did you get the money if la caisse was vide? 3 milliards de roupies to pay for the increase in old age pension. 3 milliards plus 4 milliards, 4,7, 7,3 milliards de roupies. If la caisse était vide, where did you get that money to fulfill your promise, electoral promise? You shouldn't dupe the people. As I've said, there is a limit for exaggeration, Madam the Speaker. This is called de la malhonnêteté intellectuelle. And you shouldn't expect the population to buy everything that you say. Now let me come to this very thorny problem of public debt. I think the situation has been adequately summed up in one sentence by the former governor of the BOM, Bank of Mauritius, Mr. Bassantroy. He gave a recent interview in L'Express of Monday, the 17th of June 2019. He summed up the situation of debt in one sentence. And I'll read it. It's on the front page of L'Express. If the government had been a private enterprise, it would have been on receivership already. If government was a private enterprise, it would have been in receivership already. One sentence to sum up the situation of debt. Yes. Madam Speaker, before I deal with the issue of how government is planning to reimburse part of its debt, the population should know how we have reached to such an unprecedented level of indebtedness. The people should know. Again, don't hide the truth. And I am surprised again to hear the Prime Minister saying the other day during the PNQ, he said that they are digging into the reserves of the BOM to pay for the debt left by the Labour Party. What a joke. What a joke. Madam the Speaker, the facts are clear. The records would show it. In 2014, when the Labour Party left power, the debt stood at 237 milliards, only 61.5% of GDP. Today, the debt stands at an alarming figure of 323 milliards, 65% of GDP. Excluding, Madam the Speaker, the loan through the SPVs, 18 milliards. SBM Mauritius Infrastructure Company for Metro Express. Loans from the Saudi Fund by Mauritius Multisports Infrastructure Limited, Kodo project. And not to forget my good friend, Honorable Jagu, National Housing Development Company, which normally should have been counted in the budget. And they are saying that they are reimbursing the debt left by the Labour government. Let's have the reason, and one of the main reasons, and the population should know again, we shouldn't hide the figures. One of the main reasons for the accumulation of the debt for the last 4.5 years is the costs incurred by the dismantling of the BAI group. NPF. NPF, oui, là-bas, on travaille, oui, NPF, a government-owned company, today has a total debt liability of around 100 milliards d'euros.
NPF.
Yes, National Property Fund Limited, the company that was set up to pay back the policyholders. 10 milliards d'euros de dette, 4.4 milliards loan from BOM, capital plus interest, and 6.4 milliards loan from SBM Bank Mauritius Limited. Mobank Limited, 1.6 milliards equity participation from the government of Mauritius in Mobank Mauritius Holdings Limited. Loan of 3 milliards from SBM Bank Mauritius Limited guaranteed by government. The total debt liability, NPFL plus Mobank Holding Limited, stands at an alarming 15 milliards d'euros. 15 milliards d'euros. And yesterday, was it yesterday? Answering to a PQ, the Honorable Minister of Financial Services said that since 4 years, they are still calculating the valuation of the assets of NPFL. Depuis 4 ans, still calculating the value of those assets. The fact is that all the assets have devaluated. You will remember what happened to some of those assets, une braderie of the assets. There has been une braderie.
Yeah.
Coats, Britam Kenya, Iframac, Apollo Bramwell, all sold out undervalued. Braderie des assets de BAI. So, who will pay for these liabilities? 15 milliards de roupies qui vont payer? If it is not the public, if it is not going to come from public funds, who will pay for this? And they are blaming the Labour government. The Kodo project, initially planned to be financed by the government of China at a cost of 1.9 billion. It has gone up now to 4.9 billion. Pas pour finir. Après, je les ai pour continuer. Now, government is planning to reduce the public debt to the statutory requirement of 60% before end 2021 by digging into the reserves of BOM. Firstly, if they are so serious, they are saying that the economic environment is good. All the indicators are rosy. But this decision of having to dig into the reserves of BOM to pay the debt de l'État, in itself, this decision clearly shows the situation that we are. That your of last for the first time, Madam Speaker, since the creation of the BOM, for the first time the government is having to dig into the reserves of the BOM to finance the of a government. I was reading the other day when this issue cropped up in the press. I said, let me go and read the speeches of our forefathers when they had set up the BOM. The BOM was set up in 1966. 1966, I don't know, Mr. Mentor probably. We had a big problem with the price of sugar on the international and time that they were and there was Honorable Parti, while intervening, he said, and I'll quote from what he said, with the bank, the auto-regulation will no longer exist in such a word way. There may well be some pressure from government for deficit financing, especially with the present low prices of sugar. So he was concerned about the independence of the BOM. He said probably Session Sagar will go and dig into the reserve of BOM to finance the price of sugar because
Honorable Ramful, you are addressing yourself to your colleagues or to the chair?
No,
You may not like to see my face, but you have to bear with it.
no, they are happy about Session Sagar, so they are happy. And you know what Session Sagar answered, Madam the Speaker? He said, even if the price of sugar are low, it is not my intention to resort to it. Even if the price of sugar is low, it is not my intention to resort to it. And Mr. Pachuko came charging again. I am very pleased to hear that. But I think eventually, if the prices of sugar remain low, we will have to do something about it. And you know what Session Sagar answered? Even with the price of sugar, I am not having resort to it in this budget. So, these were men of principle. They had respect for the. I know Minister Mentor has a problem. I know. I do understand. But anyway, these are facts. I'm reading from Anzad. These are facts. Men of principle.
Facts that hurt.
And those facts hurt. No, yes, of course. And today this government is digging into the reserve of the. Now, secondly, the way this has been announced in the budget, you know, a Minister of Finance, although he's a Prime Minister, coming before the House and saying to the nation, look, we are going to take out money from the BOM and finance the debt of the country. My question is this. Has there been a prior board decision of the BOM before the Minister of Finance comes before the House and announces this?
No. Yet nada.
But how can you talk about the independence of such an institution? Yes, it's an invasion on the independence of the BOM. Thirdly, there is a total confusion with regards to this issue. It was announced in the budget that money would be removed from accumulated undistributed surplus. And for that purpose, the section relating to special reserve fund will be amended. This was what was said in the budget speech. Then the BOM, 2 days after, came with a communique which talks about foreign exchange reserve, which is another fund completely. Then you have the PNQ with the Honourable Minister, when he tried to justify this measure, he referred to a report from the IMF which gave general guidance on financial management. But Madam the Speaker, I have. The Honourable Prime Minister referred to a general guidance from the IMF on financial management. I have in my possession here, it's on the internet, you can read, the executive summary of the IMF, April 2019, specific to Mauritius. Huh? And this is what they said. I'm going to read this last paragraph. Directors highlighted the widening external imbalance. While international reserves have improved significantly on the back of strong financial inflows, given the large, and this is important, given the large size of the offshore sector, because we know the offshore sector is very volatile, and they are facing enormous difficulties. Because of the large size of the offshore sector, directors agreed that the foreign exchange intervention policy should continue to build reserve buffers as conditions permit to strengthen resilience to shocks. So what the IMF is saying, you have to build up your reserve to make it resilient against external shocks, especially given the volatility of our offshore sector. You can always have capital outflow. But if you are depleting the reserve and there is a crash, where will you get money? Where will you get money from? So don't try to fool the people. It's a dangerous move. Very dangerous move from the Minister of Finance. Madam the Speaker, the law as it stands only entitles the BOM to use that special reserve fund for monetary purpose. And any amendment would be an invasion on the central bank's independence. And depleting that fund would be detrimental to its main purpose, which is for monetary policy only, and not for fiscal policy. Let me come to the Betamax case now. I've heard a lot about the Betamax case, as if they have won the election. The Betamax case, you know, MSM members, MSM, forget about ML, MSM members are trying to gain political mileage on the outcome of this judgment. Good. But the judgment is based on a simple question about interpretation. Whether at that time STC was an exempted organization or not. And the Supreme Court has decided that it was not an exempted organization. Now, but to try to get political mileage from this judgment, especially from the MSM, is a mockery. Because in 2010, when Nabin Ramgoolam was their God, in alliance with the PT, Honorable Jagu as well was there. Who was the Minister of Commerce and Industry? Who was the Minister of Commerce and Industry? Honorable Sudan. And he was defending this agreement between STC and Betamax back at home. one can only refer to a PNQ. I think Honorable Yutim made reference to this. And it's good that I repeat for the population to know. During the PNQ, Honorable Jagu, have some patience. I will come to my constituency in a minute. Have some patience.
Honorable Jagu, please, debates should be held calmly in this house, without passion.
Mr. Ganu, no, he's a good friend. Mr. Ganu said this. Can I ask the Honourable Minister one question which I think is fundamental to the whole issue? He's talking of good procurement practice and so on. Since we have given a guarantee of 15-year cargo to Betamax Limited and this project amounts to nearly 1 billion of rupees, since this expression of interest was issued in March 2008 and the Public Procurement Act came into effect in January 2008 and we are dealing with a major contract, doesn't the Honourable Minister think that this transaction should have been monitored by the Central Procurement Board and everything should have gone through this board? The STC should never have issued directly an expression of interest and thus acted in breach of the PPA which came into effect in January 2008. Nearly the same issue which was decided by the Supreme Court. And you know what Honourable Sudan replied, Madam the Speaker? He said, loud. The Honourable Member says the contrary to what the Honourable Leader of Opposition thinks. What is done is done. Let me explain. The Honourable Member, we in this country have a lot of businessmen, many cousins. They never invested 2 million. Referring to the pension group, cousins, they never invested any 2 billion. It is the first time in Mauritius that a Mauritian is going to invest, and we already have a contract. Mr. Speaker, sir, the contract was awarded after STC was exempted. He himself said it. Exempted from the Public Procurement Act. And I think, as a lawyer, the Honourable Member should know. And now, you're trying to gain political mileage on the Betamax case. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame, Madam the Speaker. Unemployment, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts, I know it hurts. Unemployment, Madam the Speaker, previous orators have raised concerns about youth unemployment. 25% à peu près of the unemployed are youth. I am, however, I will not repeat this, but I am, however, concerned, Madam the Speaker, with the alarming level of nepotism in the recruitment. People have not forgotten, Madam the Speaker, how this government, when they took power, those who were on contract in various government institutions and parastatal bodies, such as the RDA, duty-free, IML, were asked to leave and they were tagged of being close to the Labour Party. We shouldn't forget, today in my constituency, you have in some families close to the MSM, and my constituents know what I'm saying. All the members are in full employment. Some are even given, some of those MSM members are even given the opportunity to choose which job they would desire. While we have some poor families, with young graduates who are still sitting at home unemployed, waiting for a job. This is the kind of nepotism in the recruitment procedure. Madam the Speaker, we have examples. We have clear examples. We shouldn't forget the recruitments that were done in the CB and the CWA. It cannot be a coincidence. Madam the Speaker, that those who were recruited at the CB and the CWA were mostly from constituency number 19 and 20. It cannot be a coincidence. The recent recruitments that have been made by the Ministry of Health is a glaring example of nepotism which was criticized in the audit report. Let me come to housing, because my honorable friend, Honorable Jago, wants me to speak some more. So I will talk about housing. This government, some government promised to construct, promised to construct and deliver 10,000 houses during this mandate. This mandate, not next mandate, this mandate. And we know, answering to a PQ, Honorable Jago, Minister of Housing and Land, confessed that out of the 1,449 houses constructed and delivered, nearly 746 of them were projects of the Labour government. This government, this government.
Honorable Jago, please. Honorable Ramful, please resume your seat. Please resume. Honorable Jago, you cannot say that the honorable member is misleading the House unless you stand up, raise a point of order if you have. But from a sitting position, you can't make comments. If you have to make comments or remarks, or stand up.
Point of clarification, I was to ask the honorable member which PQ and which date.
No, look, Honorable Jago, this is not according to the procedures of this House. You cannot ask questions to the honorable member. Some honorable members will surely reply to him.
I refer the honorable member to hands out.
Where is it?
This government who promised 10,000 houses during their mandate constructed and delivered only 600 houses, Madam the Speaker. And to be more precise, all the NHDC houses delivered in my constituency, be it at Mort d'Albert, Plaine Magnon, Petit Belair, and Mortaba, all of them, I've said constructed and delivered, all of them were projects earmarked and financed under the Labour government. A single one which has been delivered in constituency number 12 of projects of this present government. It's a shame. It's a shame, Madam the Speaker.
Last warning.
Let me come to my constituency. Let me come to Madam the Speaker. The other day,
I give you now a last warning, right?
the other day, my good friend, the Chief Whip, was talking about the difference between himself and Honorable Jago. And he said, entre les hommes de caractère, c'est normal qu'ils excellent. I don't hit below the belt. Luckily for him, I don't hit below the belt. Otherwise, it would have been a pleasure for me. To have talked about their relationship in the House, and the House would have appreciated. Anyway, I'll leave it for my constituents to appreciate. A few projects. Tourist village. Madam the Speaker. Year's budget was said will be converted into a tourist village. Honorable Gayan even came to my constituency. He met the inhabitants. He called for a meeting. All the inhabitants of Labour came. They were happy. Even though during his mandate he did nothing for Maibu, but then he met the constituent, and that was one and only meeting with the inhabitant. And since then, he never came back. And the inhabitants for the tourist. Artificial beach. Honorable Jagu, the chief whip, Honorable Gayan, they went to Mayberg waterfront. They went along with the inhabitants along the coastal region of Mayberg. They said, you know, we are going to convert this into an artificial beach. They are still waiting, Madam the Speaker, still waiting for the artificial beach. The market fair of Mayberg, tender is still floating since 5 years. Depuis 5 ans, on entend que they're waiting for the tender. Go and have a look. Go and have a look at the. Forget about the market fair. Forget about the market fair. Go and look at the state of the market itself. The market, poor state. Well, I won't go. I will keep for. Let me conclude, Madam the Speaker. Let me conclude by referring to a short quotation from the late MIT economist Ritish Ramful. He said, let me just refer to what he said. He said, crisis, it's a very short sentence, crisis take a much longer time coming. Crisis take a much longer time coming than you think, but happen much faster than you would have thought. Madam the Speaker, with the current state of the economy, I sincerely hope that we have enough time not only to think, but to react. Luckily, the general election, the will react.